Hello, Rama Pupotu. Hope all are in good health, feeling wonderful, great, having a happy and peaceful life. Now let's continue with the next devotee, Sampurnamal Bhagavan, who rarely drew any comparisons, said of Sampurnamal, she is our best lady cook. Sampurnam literally means a sweet filling, but its spiritual meaning is complete bliss. Sampurnamal was born in a village next to Tiruchuli, Bhagavan's village. She had heard about young Ramana's death experience, his departure to Tiruvannamalai, and how he had come to be known as Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharishi. A family followed each occurrence with a great deal of excitement and wanted to have his darshan. The family invited Sampurnamal. She declined because she wanted to devote her time to her husband and relatives. After some time, Sampurnamal lost her husband. This left her in inconsolable sorrow and pain. Her family wanted to help her out of this depression and invited her to visit Bhagavan, as they strongly believed that only Bhagavan could help her regain normalcy. However, she only wanted to wallow in her grief and turned down the invitation once again. Yet, look at Bhagavan's grace. One day, while she was in the Meenakshi temple in Madurai offering prayers at the shrine, a bright young Brahmin boy interrupted her prayer. He asked rather firmly, "Will you not cook a meal for me?" This was a strange request. When asking for alms, mendicates only request for food. However, here was this strange and bright young man asking, "Will you not cook a meal for me?" Sampurnamal, who had almost finished her prayer, told herself, "Here is a good opportunity for me to feed a Brahmin. I am so happy." But the young man suddenly vanished. She searched for him all over. Then it dawned on her that he might be none other than Bhagavan, who had come in search for her. So in 1932, Sampurnamal went to Tiruvannamalai with her sister and brother-in-law, Dr. Narayana Iyer. She was still grieving, but one look from Bhagavan and she was transformed. The look was soothing. She continued to look at Bhagavan, and Bhagavan too gazed at her. The result was magical. The three of them stayed on at the ashram for 20 days. Sampurnamal had been physically very active, and therefore she had never known what it was to meditate. However, when she sat in the presence of Bhagavan, she was taken to the meditative state effortlessly. When she was in his presence, she had absolutely no thoughts. When she was away from him in the town, thoughts cramped her mind. The next day, when she was in the physical presence of Bhagavan, she again experienced a thought-free state. As he continued to look at her, Bhagavan wanted her to understand that this was a spiritual act and not a physic one, and therefore gave her a copy of Who Am I? 20 days later, Sampurnamal went back to her village and found that she was restless. She realized that the tranquility she had experienced in the ashram was because of Bhagavan's presence. She made up her mind to go back. Her uncle understood her plight and escorted her to the ashram. Once there, she found that Santamal the cook was leaving. She was thrilled when she was asked in the presence of Bhagavan, "Will you go and take up the cooking so that Santamal can go?" As Bhagavan looked at her, she said to herself, "Oh, so this is your trick." Thus it fell on Sampurnamal's shoulders to take on that responsibility. She cooked that day's meal, and as she was serving Bhagavan, she realized that this indeed was the young Brahmin who had asked her in the temple whether she would cook a meal for him. By serving her very first meal, she not only began a spiritual quest but also ended it. She realized that she was not just feeding an individual Brahmin, but that she was feeding Brahman, the God in each one of us. She stayed on at the ashram making food for Bhagavan. Though Sampurnamal knew how to cook, it was Bhagavan who tutored her on the nuances and niceties of cooking. He taught her not only the variety of ways in which pulses, grains, and vegetables could be cooked, but he also filled this time with stories. He began with stories of his boyhood and gradually went on to talk about Vedanta, finally culminating in the teaching of the self. He taught her. Let's continue in the next chapter. Thank you. Bye bye. Rama Rama Pupodu.